now recording. And so that I don't forget, let me go to Cyber Campus and go to attendance and add smart attendance. And of course, I always have to make sure I'm sharing the right screen. So we go here and there you can see the screen and start attendance, and your smart attendance number is 102. 102 is your smart attendance number. And so 102, let's see here. So let's see, how do I get back to my 102? So then I go to the chat and put in 102, yeah, 102 like that. Yes, reminding myself how to do these things from the old pandemic days. And so today is our short class. So we don't have a lot of time, and I want to give you all a chance to speak, or as many people the chance to speak and contribute as possible. So let me go then to the back to the Cyber Campus, and again to share screen, and back to Cyber Campus, and back to vote here, and scroll down to the classroom debate topic today. Zinn's analysis implies the U.S. by its so-called manifest destiny, as its propagandists described American expansion west. Its manifest destiny nature aims to continue to expand its Pacific empire into North Korea. And so, so please vote so that we can get organized into our classes. And so we see you got my comments back on the paragraphs that I sent you yesterday. So on your paragraphs, so go ahead and vote so I know who is pro and who is con. And so we have so far 7 pro, 2 con, and the rest of you should vote so that I can give you participation credit. And let me then also then go to the back to the so we have let's see, we have 4 con, 9 pro, and 5 con and 3 neutral. And so that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I have 5 classes, 5, maybe 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay. And okay, so okay, so I see we got 10 pro so far, 3 neutral and 5 con. So what I want to do now is go back to the Zoom and trying to remember how to do the breakout rooms. And so I will let you choose and create 5 rooms, and like this. And let me see, rename pro 1. We'll have 3 pro 1, yes. Pro 2, rename. Let's see here, pro 2, yes. Rename pro 3, pro 3, yes. And then room 4 will be neutral, yes. And room 5 will be con. So based upon your position that you voted in the on the vote, please choose one of these rooms to go into. So the con people should all go into the con group. The neutral people should go into the neutral group. The pro people we'll divide you up. Just choose one, and we'll balance out the pro group, the pro into 3 different groups once everybody chooses. So if you're pro, just choose one of these groups and do that now. And open all rooms. So okay, so go ahead and choose those different rooms to go into. And so yeah, so the con people all go into the con group, the neutral people go into the neutral group, and the pros just pick one. And then if there's too many in one group, we'll move you around into a different pro group. So go ahead, please join the groups. I, I assume you can hear me. So please join the groups. And so we've got uh, the other unassigned. If you don't join, I'll have to assign you. So 5 con in the neutral. Okay. And so I'll assign you to one, assign to one, and assign to one. Okay. So everybody's in a group. And so everybody is in a group. Okay. Everybody's in a group. Exciting. Okay. And so we have too many people in one group. So let me move you to Pro 3. Okay. So there we Okay, to Pro 3. So now we've got four people in Pro 1, 3 in Pro 2, 4 in Pro 3. Okay, so who's going to speak first for these groups? So let me count by 1, 2, 3, 4 and go to Siri. Siri, pick a number between 1 and 4.
It's 2.
Okay, so Jiwana, you're going to speak first for Pro Group 1. Siri, okay, and I have to close it, I guess. Siri, pick a number between 1 and 3.
It's 1.
Gwen, you're going to speak first for group number 2. Okay, Gwen will speak first for group number 2. And I guess I have to close that and go to now to Siri again. Siri, pick a number between 1 and 4.
It's 1.
And that's Chung Dujin is going to speak first for group number 3. And so Chung Dujin is going to speak first for group number 3, pro group number 3. Okay. And Siri, pick a number between 1 and 3.
It's 1.
So Oh Ji Young is going to speak first for the neutral group. Like, she just doesn't know. Don't know. We don't know if we're pro or con. We just don't know. And Siri, pick a number between 1 and 4.
That would be 1.
Okay, so Kim Kyung Tak, please, you're going to speak first for the con group. So please take a minute or two to help each other get ready to speak and to make your position statement as to why you are pro or con. And don't speak, more than a minute when it's your turn to speak. So you don't need to read your paragraph if it's going to take more than a minute. Try to summarize your paragraph in your own words. Okay. So let me. Let's see. I'm going to stop the.
I found this on the web.
No, okay. So okay. So okay. So please take a minute or two to get ready, and I have to choose if I'm pro or con, and so I go back to the share screen and share, and we see here heads I'm 1, 2, or 3, tails I'm 4 or 5. So heads I'm pro or neutral, and I am heads. So heads I'm 1, strongly pro, and yes, I'm strongly pro. So I am strongly pro. So I have to prepare a strongly pro statement while you prepare your statements. And so we'll do that just for a minute, okay? Hello? Yeah, okay. So prepare your statements. Okay. 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 So, do you want to hear what I wrote? I was strongly pro. I'm strongly pro, and I said I'm strongly pro because the U.S. expansion today into the Pacific, the U.S. expansion of its influence into the Pacific resembles the way the British expanded in their empire in the 19th century. The US also prefers to rule indirectly, the way the British preferred to rule indirectly. That is, the British used local rulers as the face of their influence. So, the British still kept Indian princes in power, and they still work with African princes and the like. Even though behind the scenes, the British and tended to dominate and control those individuals. Sometimes, if the local prince became a problem, they would get rid of him and they would just add the colony directly to the empire, put a governor in charge. And they did that periodically if the local prince became a problem, like in Egypt, right? As the Egyptians uh, rulers became difficult to control, the British would remove them and just add Britain to the British Empire at the end of the 19th, beginning of the 20th century. But the U.S. prefers to rule indirectly as well, not through princes, of course, but through, I guess, from Vladimir Putin's point of view, for example, organizing elections in South Korea, that whoever gets elected, they're going to be pro-American. I mean, the most they're going to be vary a little bit between someone like Moon Jae-in and Yoon Suk-yeol, that they're not going to challenge America's domination in Korea because the economic interests are so tight, are so important here. Um, People want a good quality of life, and they more or less don't like the communists. And so, the Americans orchestrate basically a way by which to legitimate their domination through having some local elections in South Korea that put a democratic face on American hegemony. And if things become problematic, they will orchestrate coups and removals of peoples, like they did during the Cold War in 1953 in Iran and 1954 in Guatemala and other places as well. So they will ultimately do that. But they would prefer to, make, because if you're going to control somebody through direct occupation, that's expensive, because when you directly control a colony, you have a governor general, military general ruling the place with your own military, your own forces. You're going to generate more opposition. People are going to be more hostile to you. So one of the reasons why you want to rule indirectly through somebody, like, orchestrating some kind of election in Afghanistan to put somebody in power that looks like they represent the will of the Afghan peoples, because it reduces the costs of occupation, because it reduces resistance, right? Because it might not work, but that's the main reason for ruling indirectly, is because it reduces local opposition, because opposition means you got to spend more money to control and suppress that opposition. You got to hire more soldiers, you got to spend more money on military occupation, so you want to keep the cost down. And so that's how the Americans rule, and like the British did. The difference is, of course, that we don't use the term empire. Like we did in the 19th century, partly because the British had a king, and Henry VIII at the end of the 15th century, he declared that the British kingdom, the English kingdom, is an empire. And he declared it's an empire because empires engaged in the slave trade. So Great Britain was going to have colonies and was going to engage in the slave trade. And so when you have king, you can have an empire, you can have an emperor. So one of the titles of the British monarch when the British monarchy had its empire was the king or the queen was the king of the empire and emperor, or queen and empress. So Queen Victoria was also Empress of India. So we don't have kings anymore in the United States. So we don't use the term empire, but we have other terms like liberal hegemony. The United States is the benign hegemon, supposedly, and um, and so the and so of course also these vested economic and security interests that already exist that were created during wartime. Like for example, the United States got big control of big parts of the Pacific Ocean during World War II, or got involved in Korea because of World War II, right? In terms of occupying the southern part of Korea in the defeat of Japan. And then those military interests, organizational interests, bureaucratic interests involving hundreds of thousands, even millions of people, and the economic interests that grow up around them, they become vested interest to maintain that influence in that position because that's where the money and the careers of these people involved come from, right? Because they're like me, right? I mean, I'm here because of American influence. It's worthwhile to have me here, supposedly, because it's part of the American influence is so pervasive in this area. So people like me are going to support, yes, America should stay in Korea, and America should deal with bad North Korea and should try to control North Korea, supposedly, right? And so you saw that also in the British Empire. And sometimes there'd be uprisings and upheavals in those British colonies, and the British would get angry and they would just take over or expand further their empire. For example, that's how they got involved in Egypt, right? They came into Egypt in the 19th century because Egypt had financial problems and was going to default on its loans that it owed to British and French banks. And so the British and the French came in to try to help Egypt's economic situation. And then they ran into opposition from locals in Egypt, and then the British became paranoid. The French or the Russians or maybe even the Germans later were going to get involved in Egypt, and so they took control over Egypt because they were concerned not only about losing their investments, but that basically the French and the Russians might exploit the chaos and take Egypt for themselves. And you see that pattern happen again and again and again, right? And you're going to see it happen now in the 21st century as the Americans become concerned that if the United States isn't involved in the Middle East, that the Russians and the French, the Russians and the Chinese are going to expand into Iran or wherever. And so you see the same kind of patterns. And we don't use the term empire because we don't have kings anymore, at least not in the West. So we have presidents and prime ministers. So you don't use the term empire because you can't have an empire unless you have an emperor, right? And an emperor is another word for a king. But we have other terms and other phrases like benign hegemon and liberal hegemony, led by the United States. So that's how I would respond strongly pro if as I was assigned by flipping this coin. So who's going to speak first for the pro groups? And I guess maybe I should ask you all to come out of your groups so that we can all hear each other speak. So close all rooms. You have 1 minute. Okay, so let's get somebody from the pro group to speak. And so let me go to Siri. Siri, pick a number between 1 and 3.
The answer is 2.
2. So that is Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn, pro group 2. So Gwendolyn, please make your pro statement on the debate topic.
Okay, so we think that Zim's analysis shows that.
Oh, Gwendolyn, if you want to, do you want to turn on your video camera? And I understand. I thought this is a side point. This is kind of cute. I think it's kind of cute. During the pandemic, whenever we have these Zoom classes, it seemed like the students, particularly the girls, would not turn on their videos. And I always wonder, why don't people want to turn on their video cameras? Don't they want to see each other because we're all so kind of isolated from the pandemic? And then I realized that the girl students, they wouldn't put on their makeup if they weren't going to go outside. And it takes like 45 minutes to put on their makeup. So they don't have any makeup on, so they don't want to turn on their cameras. So,
Well,
but I don't know if that's the case now. Maybe it's the same case now that girls don't want to turn on their video cameras because they're not going to put on makeup if they're not going to go outside today, right? But Gwen, it's up to you. You can turn on your camera so we all get to see you talk. And maybe you be more persuasive if we can see you talk. But it's up to you if you want to turn on your video camera.
well, I never wear makeup, so it's good. I can I can turn it on. Okay, so so we think that in Tim's analysis, it shows that first the idea of the expansion, it wasn't like something new. He mentioned with the railroad project, for example. But we also know that the United States, they have been involved in lots of wars, such as the Vietnam War or the Korean War, and it kind of like gives the idea that the United States feels like the police of the world, like they feel the obligation to take part in wars all over the world, as if like maybe it would be their holy duty because they are American and they build their society with like getting detached from Europe and Christianity, like Catholicism. So they know what's best, and it's their duty to make sure that their way of life and thinking in the United States spread like overseas.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, I want to point out that the statement that I just made, that I explained to you when I did my part of the exercise, this would be Vladimir Putin's argument, right? That basically America uses its economic power to dominate and control people, and so the Russians are playing the same game, but they have a different way of playing the game, right? They basically don't rely upon America, their vast wealth and influence that the Americans have. So they do it in a different way. But of course, this is what I expressed. It's not my point of view. It would be a point of view, for example, of Vladimir Putin's. How the United States, and it's to the lesser extent its British ally, because the Putin's always talking about the Anglo-Saxons, right? That means United States and London, the Anglo-Saxons, which sounds like the way Stalin used to talk. It's like Stalinism 2.0, Stalinism 2.0, in terms of the prevailing view today in Moscow. Regarding how they see conspiratorial threats from world liberalism using American overwhelming economic influence and its control over the entertainment media, the media in general, and the desire for money to control people through neocolonial economic hidden subversion. Right? Not by conquering countries, although the Americans will do that. They have done that in the past. But basically through its fifth columnists within Russia or within Ukraine or within potentially China, if you're Beijing, that are more entranced and hypnotized by American Western ways and culture, and of course American money as well. I'm not saying I agree with it, but that's the dominant view for conspiracy theories who see America as a threat, a diabolical enemy working through informal, hidden corporations, American money, American ways of thinking, American technology companies, social media, and so on. So And so let's hear now from the Khan group, and that's Kim, Mr. Kim Kyung-tak. So please make your Khan statement as to why you think the United States is not trying to expand its empire into North Korea.
Okay. I think the United States is the only world hegemonic country and has a long history of intervention for other countries. And US government. Can I turn on my video?
Yeah, you can, sure.
Okay. And US government often justified by democracy and human rights. So use manifest destiny, nature, aims. And I think recent events such as Russian-Ukraine war demonstrate that even US is very cautious about direct US troops and government prioritize their interests. And I think this tendency is same for the US people. Usually the majority of unions are on the side of the weak, but however, some unions have supported a merger with the Philippines just because they are profitable, despite many uh, crimes in the Philippines in the 19th century. And I think given these factors, it is unlikely that the US will expand its influence into North Korea, but especially if China does not intervene. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, North Korea is too close and too tightly connected to China. So, yeah, I'm just thinking about historical examples where, like, for example, the British Empire. Where did the British not attempt to expand, formally at least, because it was too close to the Russian Empire, say, or yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a typical way of how policymakers, as well as I guess political scientists, think. They look for historical examples, in history, historical analogs, historical comparisons, and yeah, if there is a regime change in China, like some kind of upheaval in China, that might make it more feasible. I mean, that's of course the Putin's explanation of how the United States expanded in Ukraine, because this foolish person Gorbachev came to power and just let the Soviet Union fall apart, and the Americans exploited the Russian weakness to expand. I mean, yeah, I mean there was that element of American leadership that did that. I think also it was just lots of vested interest, and of course Ukrainian nationalists also wanted to tie up with the United States to, resist their traditional enemy, Moscow, because the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? And so, I mean, the thing that I didn't really address in my comments on your essays is that the agency, we talk about Ukrainian agency, Ukrainian nationalism as an agency that makes Ukraine, an autonomous actor. What about Korean nationalism? And there's been a lot of talk, at least in the English language media, about what is North Korea's relationship with China? I mean, did Kim Il Sung actually like China? I mean, they relied upon China, of course, but Korean nationalism is pretty strong. And 30 years ago, before you were born, there was all that discussion coming out of Beijing when it looked like Kim Il Sung's North Korea might collapse when the Cold War ended over 30 years ago. And the subsidies to North Korea from the Soviet Union ended because the Soviet Union fell apart. And so there was that terrible famine in North Korea. And we don't know how many people died, but a lot of people died. And all of a sudden, out of China, out of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, controlled by the Communist Party, of course, they started claiming that Goguryeo was a ancient Chinese kingdom. As if the intellectuals in the Chinese Communist Academy of Sciences were preparing an intellectual justification for why China would intervene into North Korea to prevent North Korea from collapsing and falling under the control of Seoul. That, North Korea, that's basically part of China. So that's why we're going to send in the Chinese army rather than let North Korea be absorbed by South Korea. And then when it became clear that North Korea was not going to collapse, the Chinese Communist Academy of Sciences stopped talking about that. I mean, you can find internet materials all about this. And so, and there have been indications over time that another one of the reasons why North Koreans developed the nuclear weapons is not just because of the Americans, but because of the Chinese. That they're not, and there have been reports that the Chinese military has mobilized its military. The Chinese have mobilized their military and put it on the border of North Korea, and the North Koreans counter mobilized. Like they don't. There's tension there. So that's a good question. How strong is Korean nationalism? Can it overcome Chinese and American involvement in Korea to reunify? Would China stop? Would China try to prevent North Korea from reunifying with South Korea? I don't know, right? But these are the kind of topics that people are talking about. We should go, though, to our next pro speaker. And so let me ask Siri. Siri, let's see. Siri, pick a number between 1 and 2.
It's 2.
And that would be Chung Do-jin from Pro 3. Chung Do-jin. So Chung Do-jin, where are you, Chung Do-jin?
All right.
Okay.
Here, sir.
Okay, so please give us your statement as to why you think the United States is attempting to expand its empire into North Korea.
Yeah. So first of all, the people in the U.S. experience an upside from its past expansions, like to the West or Hawaii or in abroad, because they can earn a amount of like economic profit by new market and new immigrants as a labor force. So they might expect the same effect into the North Korea, which is also a new market as well. And they seem not to have like racial prejudice upon its economical perspective. So and also North Korea is kind of part of like Chinese influences where they compete with each other. So they might expect the political sake to turn North Korea into their new market, like they did in Cuba to exclude European influence among American continents.
I guess it'd be interesting to see if Trump becomes president again, Trump being a businessman and I don't know, maybe not the most insightful person, but he was talking about when he was president previously that North Korea has tremendous tourism resort hotel potential because of its coastline. I don't know why he thinks North Korea is, exceptional in that regard, considering that there's lots of beautiful seacoasts in warmer places than North Korea, like in the tropical oceans. But he was talking about a beautiful, tremendous tourism resort potential in North Korea. Like his son-in-law has been talking about, Gaza Strip oceanfront territory, beachfront territory in the Mediterranean, and Gaza would be great seafront tourism resort real estate potential. So if Donald Trump could somehow, President Donald Trump could somehow convince the Kim family that they could become and their supporters could become rich real estate and political. I just don't see how that it's going to happen. I just don't see how the Kim family is going to be persuaded. I mean, when Kim Kim Jong-un was perceived a challenge from his aunt's husband, he had him arrested and executed, right? So it's hard for me to imagine how change is going to happen in North Korea that would lead to peaceful reunification. It's just hard to see how that's going to happen. In which case, the status quo will be maintained, and the United States will not be expanding its influence by Seoul, through Seoul into the northern part. Although, there's a lot of some American military sympathy because American Marines fought in North Korea, right? There was the big battle with the U.S. Marines when the Chinese first intervened at what is it called? The Chosun Reservoir, where there was a big battle that the American Marines were able to escape before the Chinese could encircle the Marine detachment that was moving towards the border with China. Well, we'll see. So back to neutral. I think we had Oh Jiong. Did we choose Oh Jiong to speak? Oh Jiong, are you there? Okay, Oh Jiong. So go ahead, Oh Jiong. Why can't you decide? Why you just don't know? You just don't know.
I cannot decide on this topic because, first of all, currently, U.S. is using a lot of diplomatic and military resources in the Middle East and Ukraine. And so U.S. needs to control other conflicts in the Asia. And North Korea is playing as a buffer between the U.S. and China. So I thought these are reasons the U.S. will not aim to continue expanding the Pacific Empire into North Korea. But otherwise, I think it's a certain that the U.S. continue the expansion policy in 19th century, like a Vietnam War or Korean War. And South Korea and U.S. and Japan have announced a memorandum of cooperation under the Security Cooperation Framework. So in 2024 July. So it seems like maybe U.S. hegemony policy. So I can really see the end of this topic.
Yeah, I mean, again, I keep hearing on the news, like I just heard it this morning on my podcast I was listening to. Again, somebody claimed that President Xi Jinping in China ordered the Chinese People's Liberation Army to be prepared to go to annex Taiwan by 2027 through military means, if necessary, by 2027. So 3 years from now. So you can imagine some kind of situation where basically, as we imagine scenarios, right, that finally the Chinese move, maybe if the Americans are involved in a war in the Middle East, or the war escalates in Ukraine, and then the Chinese decide that this is the time to, finally reunify and bring Taiwan back under Beijing's sovereignty, Beijing's control. And that would lead to some kind of military escalation and conflict that would probably maybe involve other Asian actors like Japan and South Korea, if only because they're basing areas for the American military. And then somehow North Korea gets involved in this on the side of China. And you can imagine that, and the chaos and turmoil. I mean, imagine. I just assume it's hard to imagine how this would work. Although, of course, this is what military institutions do. They do these war games and they do these scenarios to plan. I don't know if there was a conflict over Taiwan, what would North Korea do? Just watch as the United States and China fight each other? A naval battle of some sort where, you know, they just stand by and watch it happen, or would they try to do something basically in order to advance their own interest towards Seoul, or vice versa, Seoul towards Pyongyang? But that might be something to watch. That basically, you know, the situation in the Korean Peninsula, I guess, is only going to change. I mean, I've heard other people say that basically the best thing for the Americans to do would be to have a peace treaty with North Korea, and that would allow North Korea to begin to reform its economy. I don't know if it actually would, if there was an actual peace treaty, and what that peace treaty would require. Probably would require, I don't know if the peace treaty would make any difference anyway. I mean, the Americans are just not going to leave South Korea. They're not going to withdraw their military from South Korea unless the South Koreans push them out. And I just don't see that's ever going to happen. So anyway, I don't want to talk too often. So let's go to group 1. I think you're left. And so that is, who do we choose for group 1? Chi Sung Jun? Who did we choose for pro group 1 to speak?
It was me, Professor.
Okay, go ahead, speak.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not ready for turn on the video and please.
Okay.
Manifest Destiny was about more than just taking over land. It was also about spreading American values, increasing economic power, and controlling important areas. We can see this in the way the US acts in the Asia Pacific region. In the past, the US used similar thing when it took control of places like Hawaii, the Philippines, and Guam. These actions were not just about protecting American interests, they were also present as a way to bring stability and democracy to this region. Today, the US used the same reasoning when dealing with North Korea. While the focus is often on North Korea nuclear weapon, the US also wants to make sure it stays in control of its important area. Its strong military in South Korea helps the US keep a check on countries like China and Russia, which are also powerful in East Asia.
Okay. And Khan. So we already had one person speak for Khan. So let me choose somebody else from Khan. Siri, pick a number between 1 and 2.
It's 2.
So that's Etam. Etam. Are you there, Etam? Where's Etam?
Yes, I'm here, Professor.
Okay, Etam, go ahead and make your Khan statement.
Okay, sorry, I'm not ready for the turn on the video. Okay, we thought today's global system now prioritized stability and conflict resolution over territorial gains. And it is reflecting a fundamental shift from the practice of the 19th century. So Zin's analysis is valid in a historical context, but fails to explain all the complexities of modern international relations.
Okay, and Siri, pick a number between 1 and 2.
It's 1.
So Indira, you're pro that the United States does want to expand its empire into North Korea. So why do you say so, Indira? Indira?
Hi, sorry, sir. Can you repeat what you asked?
I'm sorry.
Explain why you think the Americans do want to expand their empire into North Korea.
I would say that I mean in the beginning, like during the Korean War, it was like it was a battle of hegemony between the liberals and the communists. So I would say that if they were to expand their influence to North Korea, it would be to um, expand their liberal influence in the area. I mean, in regards to the East Asian region, they're already having problems with China over Taiwan. So it's like if they were to invade, not invade, but like to somehow reach North Korea, it would definitely meddle with the East Asian dynamics. That's what I think. But
Okay.
like in regards to the manifest destiny, I would say that well, they have already had so many conflicts even inside of America, and they have expanded southwest and like to Hawaii and like to Nicaragua. So like in that sense, I would say that they have enough confidence to want to expand even further too.
Okay,
what I
so let
think.
me then go to Siri. Pick a number between 1 and 2.
It's 2.
So Pak Yonji Pak. Why do you can't you know? Why do you not know? Why you can't decide? Why are you neutral, Yonji Park?
Yeah, I just don't like US just didn't want for Communist Party of China to expand their power and territory, and I just don't like US just wanted to jeopardize for China and North Korea to grow up their power, and I don't think like US wanted to expand its Pacific empire into North Korea. So
Okay.
that's why I decided neutral side.
Okay, so back up to pro group 3. Pick a number between, hey Siri, pick a number between 1 and 3.
Here's what I found.
Fuck that. Siri, pick a number between 1 and 3.
The answer is 2.
Okay, so Yerin and Yo, Yo. Why are you pro?
Because I thought North Korea has geopolitical advantages, and the resources and strategic locations can serve as an economic motivation. So if North Korea uses its resources to build stable trade relationships through economic corporations with the United States, it'll have a positive impact on the US economic interest. And in the past, the US has justified military interventions to secure resources. And if the US attempts to expand into North Korea, it could also contribute to expanding its international influence. So it provides an opportunity to reorganize the order in East Asia and expand the US foreign policy to a broader extent. So this allows the US to exert greater influence on the global level as well.
Okay, and so for your final activity, vote anonymously. Vote anonymously to see if our discussions have had any impact at all on your thinking in the class. And that's it for today. Okay. So if anybody has any questions, if not, I'm going to sign off and see you on Monday. If not, bye.
Bye.